What, Rob? Might be twice this week now.
Welcome everyone. I'll just do brief introductions. To your far left, you've got Interim Performance Director Hugh Bevan. To your far right, you've got Welsh Rugby Union CEO Abby Turney. Matt Sherratt sat in the middle, so I'm going to hand to Abby to explain.
Okay, thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us today at short notice, and apologies that timing shifted around. I'm sure you'll all understand why. So just wanted to begin by saying a huge thank you to Warren Gatland for his time at Welsh Rugby Union and everything that he's contributed to the game, and also the way he's managed the last 48 hours. And also, and most importantly, a massive thank you and welcome to Matt Sherratt. We're delighted to announce him as our new head coach for the rest of the Six Nations tournament. I spoke to Matt last night, and I think, just bear in mind that he's only just heard about this and we're all still processing it, but I'm delighted to have him on board and really looking forward to seeing what happens on the pitch as a result. And at that point, I will open it up to any questions.
Abby, if we could just get the logistics out of the way first.
Yes.
Who made this decision? Was it Warren or yourself?
It was a mutual agreement.
Did he phone you first or did you phone him?
He phoned me.
Yeah.
But we catch up after the games. He phoned me, said, can I have a conversation? So we had a conversation and we reached a mutual agreement that now it was the best time and in the best interest of Welsh Rugby for him to finish his role.
Why in the middle of a campaign has this decision been reached?
So I think it's always difficult to reach the decision. I think there was a mounting sense that it wasn't working and that something had to be different. And up till now, Warren has always felt that he was the right person to make that change and to take the team forward. He no longer felt that, and when that happens, then you've got to look for a new solution. And I think it is really important for the team, for the management team, and for the Welsh public that we made that change, even though ideally you wouldn't want to do it in the middle of the tournament. It still, I think, is the right decision.
What impact do you hope that it has in the next few weeks?
So Matt and I talked a bit about that last night. So I used the word hope. I think bringing hope back to Welsh Rugby. I think kind of ambition, showing some ambition on the pitch, helping the players kind of rebuild their confidence and their mindset. But maybe Matt can talk a little bit more about what he thinks he can do. I've also told Matt there's no magic bullet there. This is a really young team, and they're playing their hearts out on that pitch, but something isn't working. But Matt's not going to turn all of that around in 3 games, but hope and ambition, if we can see some of that, then I think I'll be grateful to Matt.
Last week to yourself, obviously there was a long, meticulous review after the autumn campaign.
Yep.
The decision after that was to back Warren.
Yes.
2 games later he's gone. Do you accept that might suggest a bit of muddled thinking on your part?
No, I think it was a very thorough review, and I think there was lots of multifaceted reasons why we chose not to make a change then, including Warren still really wanting to take the game forward, the timing we had leading up to the tournament, the availability of alternatives. You look at all of that, and also data that suggested actually Warren was still the best person, and bringing somebody else in new wasn't going to make a huge difference, and continuity was what was required. So hindsight's a wonderful thing, Matt. These decisions are never easy whenever you take them, but was it the right one? Yes.
Matt, I'll come to yourself. You come in obviously a difficult time. Where do you start?
I'll be honest, it feels a little bit like when I started at Cardiff. Obviously it's pretty well publicised. Cardiff were a little bit lower when I come in, and I think I said to Abby earlier, I think that the first thing is to start with mindset. It's going to be very difficult. I've coached international rugby before. It's going to be very difficult to change a huge amount technically and tactically in what will probably be 4 sessions before we play Ireland. But I do think we can get like a mindset shift and a real excitement to play international rugby for Wales. So I think it doesn't matter what technical and tactical stuff that you put on the pitch. If the players aren't excited and motivated and going onto the pitch with belief and a lack of fear, then the technical and tactical stuff doesn't make any difference. So I think mindset first, and making sure that the players come, 12 days time, are really excited, looking forward to take the field.
Thanks, Matt. Good luck.
Cheers, thank you.
Did Warren say to you that he had enough?
No, he didn't use that phrase. I think he felt it was in the best interest of Welsh Rugby for him to go now, and I think he's always put Welsh Rugby first, and that was his main driving factor. So there was no sense that he'd had enough. He just felt that as for when it no longer became the right thing for Welsh Rugby for him to be in post, it was the right time for him to go.
If he hadn't have said that, would you have made a change anyway?
Again, hindsight, isn't it? It's interesting. So we had a board meeting tomorrow where we were going to do an interim review. I can't at this point say what would have been the outcome of that. I think it had become, inevitable that this was going to happen, but it would have been ultimately a board decision.
12th in the world, 14 defeats. Where would you say Welsh Rugby is at the moment?
I think Matt just said it. It's a it's a really low ebb, and we've got to turn it around. But I think it's also systemic problems that have been around for a long, long time. I think the most important bit is that we really do absolute systemic change that is going to make a difference, and it's going to be sustainable in the long term. And it's really hard to do that quickly. And I realise people are impatient and they want to see quick change, but it is difficult when it's been as a result of many years of challenges.
Was this harder than you thought it would be after getting
Oh. So it's a good question. It is a really tough job. I think the complexities involved are harder. I think some of the problems I'm facing are much more deep-rooted than it's difficult to see from the outside and as a fan. Is it tougher? Yes.
Warren Gatland obviously gets so much of Welsh Rugby, he leaves now with this sort of the second stint legacy. What does Welsh Rugby owe Warren Gatland?
A huge amount. And I said to him in our conversation, one of the reasons I came and wanted to do this job was to work with him. I think he's an inspirational coach, one of the best coaches in the world. I think we make winners of Grand Slams, winners of championships. And I really hope that's the legacy, and that's what he'll be remembered for.
You've got no regrets about not accepting his resignation 11 months ago?
No, I don't.
And in terms of the backroom staff, do they stay the same?
So Matt's had less than 24 hours to process this ask, and I'm so pleased he has. But I think we now just need to give him a little bit of time to work out in his own mind what the next steps are.
Will Howie still be around? Because obviously...
I think that's for Matt. Let's give Matt some time to work that one through.
Okay. And Matt, if somebody said this to you a month ago, what would you say?
Oh, as Abby said, I was sat on the sofa last night at 8 o'clock and Hugh's name came up on my phone, and I can't repeat what I said when he phoned me at that time. But I've known since 8 o'clock last night, well, I've got offered it at 8 o'clock last night. I've been in sport long enough to know that it's pretty bumpy, and you're never going to be offered an opportunity when things are going well. So it's not something that I expected to happen, but I'll be honest, as soon as I got the phone call, I was looking at it as a player. My background in coaching has been as primary school teacher, community rugby coach, academy coach, senior coach, to have the opportunity to be head coach of a fantastic rugby nation, a group of players that I know pretty well, a staff that I know pretty well, is something that I could never turn down. So it was a surprise, yeah. And there's always obviously a harder side to that with the likes of a class coach like Warren departing Welsh Rugby. But yeah, it's something that it means a massive amount to me.
Do you want the job permanent?
Sorry?
Do you want the job long term?
I know it will be to the end of the Six Nations. I've signed a contract with Cardiff. Cardiff's my first head coach job. So listen, there'll probably be a couple of mistakes along the way. I'm learning, but it's not something that I'll be putting my name forward for. I'd like to do it for the rest of the Six Nations, help the squad, do my best for Welsh Rugby, and then I'll be back to Cardiff to try and turn that around there.
Abby, can we find out officially if there was a break clause or not?
The agreement I've reached with Warren on Monday, agreement WRU reached with Warren, I can confirm there was no settlement in that. It was him leaving by mutual agreement.
So there's no payoff at all?
No.
Have you started the process looking for Warren as long-term successor?
So I think, and in any job you're in, when you've got such key single points of leadership, you have to make sure you've got succession plans in place. So we had been, you always look, and I do that across all of my team, and so we've been looking at some of the changes recently. What are the options out there? We can now formally start that process, and we're starting it in earnest.
You could also appoint a director of rugby as well, because obviously that role
Yes, absolutely critical.
through.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't say we're close. We're working hard on it. It's that, I think, and I saw your article yesterday, and I think that's probably, next to the coach is going to be one of the most important decisions we can take in Welsh rugby. So I want to make sure we get it right rather than rush it.
In terms of the next head coach, what sort of characteristics are you looking for? And more importantly, is the money there to get somebody of Warren's calibre when he initially came in?
Yeah. So the money is there and it's in our financial plan to do that. So we won't be choosing somebody based on their costs from that perspective. In terms of characteristics, it was quite interesting when Matt was the obvious choice for the interim coach. I think what we're doing with the regions now, somebody who's a natural collaborator, somebody who can work kind of across the ecosystem is going to be really important, because I think that's one of the things that we haven't been able to do as successfully as we should have been able to do in the past. So that's one of the key characteristics. Somebody who can lift a young team and give them that confidence is also going to be really important. Somebody who's got experience of winning will be really important. So there's a number of different things that we're looking at in terms of the criteria that will drive that decision.
Mark, can I just ask, are you going to be looking to add any players to the squad? Obviously, a lot of fans would like to see Anscombe and Mascowade in it.
Listen, as I said, genuinely as well, it's not dodging it. I found out 8 o'clock last night. I've had 2 meetings with Cardiff today and run a session and literally sprinted off the pitch as fast as I could, which isn't very fast, and drove here. So until I kind of meet the other coaches and sit down and get my heads together with Hugh, then I don't know about that at the moment.
Abby, how important is it to get your performance director in first? Because that person, whoever it might be, should surely be the person to appoint the new coach.
So I think it's a really good question, Rob, and ideally you would want your director of rugby in order to choose and have an input into your head coach. What I wouldn't want to do is if sort of an absolute standout head coach became available at the Six Nations, not take the pragmatic decision of missing out on them before we've got a director of rugby. So ideal, we'll have a director of rugby, even if they're not in position, sort of sat in position, they could input, even if they're in a current job at the moment. But I wouldn't do that at the expense of losing a standout candidate either.
Are you averse to going fishing? There are some great candidates in jobs in other countries.
No, absolutely not. So we're looking at every person out there really. So no, not adverse to fishing.
Yeah.
Abby, you said you've only been in the job for 13 months, but given the state of the Welsh men's team,
Yep.
and the fact we're still waiting for that long-term review, many former players are asking what is actually being done. So I guess the question is, in what measurable way has Welsh rugby improved since you've been in post?
I think we have now got a strategy, and when you say that we're waiting for kind of the long-term review, we're very close to signing the PRA. So 90% of the strategy is there. When we sign the PRA, that's the final piece in the jigsaw. And that's taken time, because I had 2 choices. One thing, and we were talking about that on the way over here, I could have done the new deal by imposing a new deal on the clubs. Would I have then been able to phone up Cardiff yesterday and say, I need your help, and get a really positive and collaborative response? The strength of the relationships, the trust that has now been built with the regions and the WRU, still got a long way to go, but it is so much better than it has been for a long time, and that's taken time, but I think that's a really significant improvement, and you saw some of that in the press release on Friday. But the effort in behind the scenes doing that, when the trust hasn't been there, has taken significant
Do you
time.
understand there is still quite significant frustration from some former players with the WRU?
Yeah, no, absolutely, I can understand that, because they care passionately about the game. But when I speak to a lot of the former players, and I do, there's also an understanding that this is many, many years in the making, and it's not going to get fixed overnight. But for as long as we're not winning on the pitch, that frustration, I feel it hugely passionately as well. But I absolutely believe we can turn it around.
Abby, is this the last chance saloon? Because we constantly, and this is my, I've been long enough, I remember my brother, Gareth Jenkins, we go through cycles. I bumped into a former international yesterday who didn't even watch the game on the weekend, and that just shows the apathy towards the game in general in Wales. That must be a danger. How worried are you that we're on the precipice here with what's going on?
So I think there's a and for a lot of you I've spoken to before, I think there is a crisis in rugby globally in terms of what we're seeing around things such as TV rights, what we're seeing around the fan base, you know, where we're competing with so many other sports and we're struggling to attract younger fans, you know, that there's challenges with the structure of the game and how it's played and is it fast enough and all of those things. So I don't think that's just a Welsh challenge. I think it's more extreme in Wales, and I think Wales is a small country, so it feels that volatility and those ups and downs far stronger, I think, than a bigger country that can ride some of those waves. Which is why the strategy is so important, that we try and this famous phrase, isn't there, flatten that curve so that we're not so exposed to that. We've got to attract new fans. We've got to build our heroes and stars of tomorrow that, you know, kids want to watch, and that, you know, internationally. Does it make me sad when I hear that an ex-international player didn't watch the game? Absolutely. We've got to change that.
I think when you look at the profile of the long-term successor, do you look at someone like Michael Checker who has a long-term record of just turning around things quickly, or do you look at someone maybe like Matt, who's a younger coach, more visionary perhaps? How do you look at sort of the profile of the candidate?
Yeah, it's a good question, Alex, and I think you look at all of them, and I think, you know, there's a number of different. I don't think there's going to be a one single criteria that's going to fit. It'll be a number of different criteria, and it'll be about cultural fit as much as it is about, you know, experience and all of those as well. So I think, you know, we're not ruling anybody out at this stage, and then we'll go through a really rigorous process to choose the right person.
Matt, we're Wales are 200 to 1 to win the Triple Crown.
Oh.
Tell your coach, should we all have a 5 run?
I don't think you're allowed to do that, no.
No, we are, you're not. But what do you expect? Do you want to win? Do you want to win? Would that be amazing? What would be the thing?
Listen, I think when you think of players in a dressing room, so I probably it's my first year as a head coach, but I've been in the game for 20 years, professional sport. You look at the players in the changing room, your Toby Falatau, Thomas Williams, obviously players that I've two examples, players that I've worked with, Jack Morgan, they want to win. So if I go in there and talk about, let's try our best and try and play some nice rugby, you've lost the room immediately, because they're British Lions for a reason. Those players, they want to win. So we go out in every game wanting to win, same as we do at Cardiff, whether we're playing Leinster or a Zebra or at the bottom of the league. It's something that you stand there and talk about just performance, the room switches off quickly. So listen, it will be around, as I said, about mindset, changing mindset, being positive. I've learned in this job, you just got to be yourself. So I think coming in, I've got to try and play the game how I like it to be played. So I want the players to be brave. If there's 50-50 decisions, I want them to take the positive options, and hopefully that adds up to a win. But I don't think like performance and winning are separate things. We obviously got to get mindset right, put some structures in place that everyone buys into, and then just have a really, really positive attitude. Like sometimes the opposition are farther down the line than us, and I can't control the result, but they'll still be Monday morning when I meet the squad. We want to beat Ireland, yeah.
I know, I'm not getting overly classy about this, but are you learning the accent?
Yeah, I'll be on YouTube tomorrow. Yeah.
We're 12th in the world rankings. Is that a fair assessment of how far we've dropped?
Well, it is, because that's where we are.
And
So
when we
if
face that reality, how do we build to get out of that?
So I think we've done a lot of work in the pathway system. This is going to take a lot of time to come through. You know, this hasn't happened as in the last few years. It's been several years in the making, and we've got to overcome that. We got a succession plan in the future needs to be better. We need to address that, ensure the younger players are given opportunities, and balancing that with the experienced players we've had.
So, I mean, we all talk about 14, the record runs. Is your department embarrassed about where we are at the moment?
I don't think embarrassed is the right word. I think determined is the right word. We're determined to turn it around. I think it's my department's role is to provide Matt and any other future coach with the tools to be successful, and making sure that we are doing everything we possibly can to achieve that.
And if Matt talks about mindset, is the passion still there with the youngsters?
I think the passion, you could see it in abundance in the under-20s game in Treviso on Friday, where they won their first game away in the Six Nations for 5 years. There was plenty of passion there. They nearly gave it away, and that was maybe because of lack of experience. But the passion, and I don't think you can question the passion of the players or the staff that have been working with the senior team either. I don't think that's been missing.
I mean, you say you don't regret accepting Long Gatland's resignation last year. What will be the realistic target for the next head coach? And will they be allowed to lose 14 consecutive games as well?
I think that's a really difficult question to answer, because you set the objectives with that coach, so you give them a chance to look at the team, and part of that will be part of the the recruitment process. So by saying, okay, this is where we're at, this is the players you've got, this is the challenges there are, this is the funding, etc. What do you believe you can achieve?
Realistically, do you think the next head coach should be looking to achieve?
Well, we set, yeah. Sorry?
A series victory in Japan, how many games in the autumn, for instance?
So sorry, I'm going to push back again and say I think I've got to kind of work with the head coach on that. I think the most important bit is the North Star we've set ourselves, that we want to be in the top 5 in the world again by 2009, and 2029. I do think that is going to take time to do that for all the reasons that Hugh has said. And then when the head coach comes in, we'll be setting really clear objectives for the summer series, for the autumn series. I'd like their view, I'd like the director of rugby's view, and we'll set those objectives and we'll go for it.
Abby, many will feel that the parting ways with Warren Gatland, might be the answer right now potentially for Welsh rugby as far as the international game is concerned, but it's not going to answer all of Welsh rugby's problems. You've talked about a performance director and bringing them in. You've talked about the regions. What does this strategy look like? Whether that be in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, 18 months' time, or to the 2027 World Cup. Can you give us a little bit more of an insight into the wider plan?
So it's difficult because the strategy is a really detailed strategy with lots of milestones and lots of mini projects and things, and I'm really happy to sit, and I've done it with some people around this table on particular areas. I think the most important bit is the pathways, making sure we've got the pathways really strong, making sure we've got that succession planning, as Hugh said, is there, making sure that the regions are funded to a level that allows them to genuinely compete, and that also can attract and keep players in Wales is another really important part of that. A really big bit of the strategy, and it's an ecosystem, and we haven't worked as an ecosystem. So I see the regions, they are our supply chain as a national team, as is the grassroots game, and it hasn't been connected in a way that has meant that that's given sustainable, high quality players. And we saw so many of them leave, and we didn't have any of the level and the experience coming through. So we've got to avoid that again, Molly, and you do that by looking at every part of the system and making sure that it's all working together, and that actually you're all doing it in the interest of overall Welsh rugby, whilst also supporting the fact, as Matt said, for Cardiff, that actually got individual clubs there that need to succeed.
And obviously then for Hugh, what is your role within that?
Within the delivering the strategy?
Yeah.
I think there's several parts to it, but from the performance perspective, obviously we talked about the pathway, how strong that pathway is, but ensuring that those players are exposed at the age grade to the appropriate playing opportunities and competitive opportunities. You've seen the changes we've made at the SRC, for example, and then those players going on to play regional rugby in successful regional sides, and perhaps going further in competitions so they get more exposure to higher level, higher intensity competition, and regular exposure to high pressure situations that they're going to face at the international level.
And last one then, Abby, on Matt. Why Matt?
So it was a very straightforward decision yesterday. We wanted somebody that knew the players, because there's a very short period of time, and Matt is really well thought of by the players and by the management team, so he could hit the ground running. Bringing in somebody completely new and different at this point was going to be a challenge. We also know that Matt, and I'm going to spare his blushes, but he is spoken of so highly as a really good people person and a really good manager and somebody who can inspire people, and that we felt that was probably, of all criteria, really important that he be able to come in and drive some of that kind of inspiration. So that knowing the players, knowing the team, and being able to hit the ground running and bring that kind of sense of hope and ambition was kind of the things that we went for, and Matt was kind of the outstanding candidate for that.
Abby, you mentioned the financial challenges.
Yes.
There's also the record losing streak. Are you even confident you're going to be able to persuade the best caliber person to take this job on?
Yeah, my phone hasn't stopped this morning with people reaching out, interested. I mean, I am not underestimating where we are, but for a lot of ambitious coaches, the idea that actually they can come in and make a difference and turn something around, that is really attractive. And at the Welsh Rugby brand, and the fact that rugby matters more in Wales than it does in a lot of other countries, is still a massive attraction. And way before this I was being approached, but yes, I am confident we'll get a good candidate to come in. Thank you.
Last one, guys.
Matt, are you going to turn your phone off today so you don't get another telephone call?
I seem to be a lot more popular today than I was yesterday. Yeah, Rob, yeah.
But I mean, you got people on the terraces to believe in what you were doing at Cardiff last year, and we've gone back and forth on this, and there hasn't been a huge amount of success in terms of results, but the whole atmosphere changed, and you got the players to play. Can you get this team to play a slightly different brand of rugby in a very, very short space of time?
Listen, let's hope so. As I said earlier, I think I'm not going to come and overthink it and think it's international game and do anything any differently. I'm pretty set on how I like to play, so it's not going to be anything different in terms of style than we do at Cardiff. That's what I genuinely believe in. It's what I'm passionate about, and well, probably I think I may have said this to you before. I do think we've got a duty that people enjoy watching rugby, not just international rugby. So I think I said I took my little boy to 3 games last year. I took him to Liverpool game, and he loved it. I took him to a cricket game, and he loved it. The 100 in Glamorgan, and I took him to a rugby game, and he asked to leave on 55 minutes. Just about 3 years ago, because it was a kick fest, and I actually thought, how sad is it that there's a 12-year-old lad who loves sport that wants to leave the game. And I'm probably at a stage in my career now that it is important to me that people come and enjoy watching a team play, not at the expense of losing. And I think that's really important to add. But I think I want players to go out and be brave. And as I said, if there's a 50-50 decision, let's take the brave option.
And not much is going to change. You were prepared for one Irish team this weekend, so you prepared for another one the weekend. That's just a little bit stronger than Connacht.
Yeah, and then Leinster the weekend after, so I've got a crack in 3 or 4 weeks to come. Yeah.
What game was that? Was that a Wales game?
I'm not going to tell you what game it was. No, it wasn't a Wales game. No.
Are you doing the Connacht game and then this weekend, and then that'll be it?
Yeah, so I'm going to. It was obviously training day today. So we've got training Thursday with Cardiff, which I'll be at, and I'll be at the Connacht game on Saturday, and then obviously hopping back on Sunday to meet the team Monday. Yeah, so.
And I just actually.
With Wales from Monday onwards, the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, I'll obviously be in Cardiff, so I'm sure I'll have some dialogue there as well.
I just wanted to actually just finish on one note, pulling potentially Rob and Molly's things together, because I talked about Matt as a people person, Matt knowing the players, Matt actually being able to inspire fun again amongst the fans and things. I know it's a short period of time, but I just asked that, it'd be great to see the Welsh public. We've got 2 sellout games in the stadium coming up, big games, and just to get that sense of excitement back would be absolutely fantastic, and that's the other reason we know Matt can help do that. Thank you.
Thank
No pressure.
No pressure.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.